This is Radio Taiwan International.
Welcome to the news on Radio Taiwan International. I'm Phil Laskowski coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. We begin with a look at the day's top stories for Thursday, July 31st. Taiwan is conducting last-minute negotiations with the United States. Britain is prepared for conflict in Taiwan Strait, according to the British Defense Secretary, and U.S. Republican Senator Roger Wicker will lead a delegation to Taiwan. But first, today's top story. Taiwan is still conducting last-minute negotiations with the United States about reciprocal tariffs rates as the Trump administration's new trade policy comes into effect. Scholars said Thursday that increased investment commitments to the U.S. will be key for Taiwan to secure preferential rates similar to those given to Japan and South Korea. President Donald Trump announced reciprocal tariff rates for most major trading partners, with India facing a 25% tariff and South Korea receiving a 15% rate as of Wednesday. Taiwan is the only remaining country among the top 10 U.S. trade deficit nations without announced rates. On Wednesday, Zhonghua Institution for Economic Research Vice President Wang Jianquan analyzed that Japan secured its 15% rate by promising $550 billion in the U.S. investment and opening its domestic markets, including those for automobiles, rice, and agricultural products. South Korea agreed to $350 billion in Trump-selected investments and $100 billion in U.S. energy purchases to obtain the same rate. Tamkang University economics professor Tsai Ming-fang said Taiwan's economic size allows it to offer investment and procurement terms comparable to Japan and South Korea. However, he warned that Trump's unpredictability remains a key factor, and the U.S. might resist equal treatment because Taiwan's higher AI-related exports compared to its regional neighbors complicate matters. At the UK and Australia's annual 2+2 talks, Britain's Secretary of State for Defense suggested that the UK is ready to fight in the Pacific should conflict break out over Taiwan.
Secretary of State for Defense of the United Kingdom, John Healey, recently stated in Australia that Britain is prepared for combat in the Pacific should war break out in the Taiwan Strait. These remarks constitute Britain's strongest statement yet on its commitment to intervening in the event of Chinese aggression and demonstrate a shift in its strategy regarding the Indo-Pacific. According to the Daily Telegraph, Healey boarded the British aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales in Darwin, Northern Australia this past Sunday while participating in a joint US-Australia military exercise. He was accompanied by Acting Prime Minister of Australia, Richard Marles. Asked how the UK could assist Taiwan in responding to potential Chinese military escalation, Healey said, "If we have to fight, as we have done in the past, Australia and the UK are nations that will fight together. We exercise together, and by exercising together and being more ready to fight, we deter better together." Healey stressed the significance of joint exercises, not just for strengthening military readiness, but also for demonstrating unity and resolve to deter hostility. He added that the UK hopes to see any disputes in the Indo-Pacific region resolved peacefully and democratically, saying, "We secure peace through strength, and our strength comes from our allies." The British government has recently shown a marked increase in its attention to Indo-Pacific security. Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs of the United Kingdom, David Lammy, has said that the UK will conduct more frequent freedom of navigation operations in the Taiwan Strait. The Royal Navy patrol ship HMS Spey transited the strait just last month. A risk of escalation around Taiwan was explicitly noted in the UK National Security Strategy 2025, as well as the crucial role the Taiwan Strait plays in global trade and supply chains. The Royal Navy currently maintains 2 patrol ships in the Indo-Pacific region to enhance regional security. The UK and Australia held their annual Australia-United Kingdom Ministerial Consultations (AUKMIN) meeting on July 25. They issued a joint statement reaffirming the paramount importance of peace in the Taiwan Strait and expressing deep concern about China's destabilizing military exercises near Taiwan. The statement highlighted the need for peaceful resolution of cross-strait disputes and opposed any unilateral attempts to alter the status quo. In addition, both sides said they support Taiwan's meaningful participation in international organizations and deepening exchanges and cooperation in areas such as trade, science, technology, and culture. The leaders emphasized that Taiwan's contributions are of great value to the international community. David for ITI News.
United States Republican Senator and Senate Armed Services Committee Chair Roger Wicker will lead a congressional delegation to Taiwan in August. According to a report by the Financial Times, Wicker is one of Taiwan's most important allies in the U.S. Congress. The report, citing 3 people familiar with the upcoming trip plans, says it comes at a delicate moment in Taiwan-U.S. relations. The trip coincides with Trump's efforts to arrange a summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping, which is leading to growing concerns that he may be less willing to assist Taiwan. Recent reports that President Lai Ching-te was denied permission to transit through New York during his visit to Central America have sparked concerns in Taiwan. This came after Defense Minister Wellington Koo's trip to Washington was also cancelled in June, partially due to concerns of provoking Beijing. According to the sources cited by the Financial Times, Lai was frustrated that he did not receive the same treatment as former President Tsai Ing-wen, who was allowed to transit through New York under the Biden administration in 2023. President Lai Ching-te thanked athletes returning from the Rhine-Ruhr 2025 FISU World University Games in Germany this Thursday for their dedication and for bringing glory to Taiwan. Taiwanese athletes brought home 5 gold medals, 13 silver medals, and 7 bronze medals from the competition, ranking 9th overall. Regarding provocations from Chinese nationals, including protesting Go Taiwan chants and pressuring the Secretary of Ascent's mayoral office to remove the Taiwanese flag at the event, President Lai expressed gratitude to Sport Administration Director General James Cheng.
Alongside the ambassador to Germany, Xie Zhiwei, they were able to negotiate with the German government and International University Sports Federation effectively, ensuring that congratulatory messages were delivered smoothly and the national flag was hung, safeguarding the athletes' rights and national dignity.
Lai emphasized the government's aims to strengthen Taiwanese sports, including the addition of the Sports Ministry, which will be established on September 9th this year. He said he hopes sports will become a part of everyday life in Taiwan and will increase the country's international competitiveness. More than 100 experts, scholars, and civic groups have signed a petition opposing the Justice Ministry's amendment to the death penalty this past April. At a press conference Thursday, they called on the ministry to refrain from unconstitutional executions and to invite professionals and members of the public to conduct a comprehensive review of how to amend the regulations. Executive Director of the Taiwan Alliance to End the Death Penalty, Lin Xin-yi, said that instead of taking the usual 60 days to implement changes to the law, the latest amendment was pushed through in 10 days. Furthermore, the amendments failed to substantially address the Constitutional Court's 103rd ruling in 2024, she said. Their petition has received support from at least 109 scholars. Critics of the amendment say the latest revisions to the rules governing the death penalty lower barriers to execution and could immediately infringe upon the procedural remedies of 36 death row inmates. Executive Committee members of Taiwan Alliance to End Death Penalty, Qian Jianrong, pointed out that the rules were originally intended to protect the right to life and provide a check on judicial power through the executive branch.
The current amendment enables the government to execute people even when they apply for an extraordinary appeal, where before, such appeals forced the government to stop and carefully examine the verdict. If it weren't for this mechanism, the 7 people in Taiwan who have had their death sentences wrongfully exonerated might have been executed.
Lin said that although the petition was sent to the Justice Ministry on July 23rd, they have yet to receive a response. She expressed her hope that the ministry, as Taiwan's highest legal authority, would seriously consider the opinions of the public and hold a consultation meeting to review and amend the rules as soon as possible. The hourly pay rates for part-time teachers at private higher education institutions must not be lower than those in public schools following the Education Ministry's amendment of the regulations for academic appointments of adjunct professors, scheduled to take effect August 1st. This Thursday, the Education Ministry announced the news in a press release, adding that to reduce the financial impact on private institutions, hourly pay differences subsidies will be increased from the current 50% and 70% to a uniform 90% for a period of 3 years, beginning in August and ending in July 2028. The ministry will conduct a rolling review of subsequent subsidy measures, taking into account the development of private higher education institutions' academic affairs, expenditure and revenue, teaching quality, scheduling structure, and government finances. Thanks for joining me for the news. I'm Phil Laskowski. Stay tuned for another 50 minutes of English language features brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.